Tonight, in North London, people are sleeping in bedrooms that sit exactly where a football pitch used to be. Their windows sit inside a 1930s grandstand. Their garden was once the penalty spot. This ground once held 73,000 people. It survived fire, bombs, and a war that emptied. Not money, not decline. Highbury was finished off by a planning decision. Before Highbury there was Plumstead, a windswept corner of southeast London where Woolwich Arsenal slowly ran out of money. By 1913 the club were relegated, nearly broke, and watched by crowds that barely filled a single dusty terrace. Their chairman, Henry Norris, was a property man with nerve, and he looked north across the river for salvation. He found 6 acres in Islington, the recreation fields of St. John's College of Divinity, quiet lawns behind Gillespie Road. £20,000 bought a 21-year lease, and the Archbishop of Canterbury himself signed the deed away. The terms were strict: no matches on holy days, and not a drop of intoxicating liquor sold on the ground. Tottenham objected, Clapton Orient objected, Islington residents objected. Norris pressed on regardless, because he had already spent the money. He hired Archibald Leach, the Scot whose stands framed half the great grounds of Britain, and told him to hurry. Over one frantic summer they cut terraces into the slope, raised a single stand, and left the rest bare earth. On the 6th of September 1913, Arsenal beat Leicester Fosse 2-1, the paint still wet. For a decade, Highbury was ordinary, a working ground in a working suburb, waiting for someone to imagine it differently. That someone arrived in 1925, Herbert Chapman, a Yorkshire miner's son, with a manager's mind and an architect's eye. Chapman wanted a ground that announced itself. He wanted it to feel modern before English football knew what modern meant. In 1930 he hung a clock behind the North Terrace, counting down the 45 minutes of each half. The Football Association objected. A clock, they feared, might usurp the referee, so it became an ordinary clock instead. The name stuck anyway. That corner of Highbury was the clock end for the rest of the ground's life. In 1932, Chapman persuaded the Underground to rename Gillespie Road Station simply Arsenal. No other club has managed it. The same year the West Stand opened, Art Deco in pale concrete, £45,000 of clean modern lines. Chapman died suddenly in 1934 of pneumonia, aged 55, with his ground only half finished around him. Jacob Epstein cast his bust in bronze, and it was set inside the entrance hall, watching everyone who entered. On the 9th of March, 1935, 73,295 squeezed in to face Sunderland. The official capacity was 72,000. Nobody could move. The match finished 0-0. The record was never broken. In October 1936, the East Stand opened, over budget at £130,000. Behind its facade lay the marble halls, cool floors and quiet corridors that made visiting players feel very small. Then came the war. Highbury became an air raid precautions post, and Arsenal played their home fixtures at White Hart Lane. In 1941, a fire took the North Bank roof. The terracing buckled. The goalposts beneath it were destroyed. It took years to make the ground whole again, and the men who returned were not the men who left. On the 19th of September, 1951, the floodlights came on, and Arsenal beat Hapoel Tel Aviv 6-1. The pitch itself was famously small, 109 yards by 73, and famously, obsessively well kept. After Hillsborough, the terraces had to go. The North Bank was rebuilt in 1993, seats replacing standing forever. Highbury emerged, all seated and beautiful, and much too small, holding 38,419 people. European nights had to be played at Wembley, because the great old ground could no longer fit the advertising boards. The East Stand was listed in 1997, protected, admired, impossible to expand. The club looked elsewhere. On the 7th of May 2006, Thierry Henry scored 3, and Highbury closed after 93 years. The stands became flats. The Art Deco facades survive, and where the pitch lay, there is now a quiet garden. 93 years of noise, held in walls where people sleep. This is turf and time. Next, San Siro.